Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a hypothesis from our source material that is, well, it's incredibly ambitious. It tries to write a single rulebook for pretty much everything. We're talking about a theory that claims to connect the tiniest subatomic particles, our own consciousness, and even the DNA that makes us who we are. It is going to be a wild ride, so let's jump right in.
Okay, so the source material throws us right into the deep end with concepts that are, to put it mildly, pretty dense. We're hit with terms like Philfo particles and Janus particle streams. Now, if you've never heard of those, don't worry, you're not alone. That's because they're brand new concepts proposed within this very hypothesis. So to get our heads around all this, we're going to walk through it step by step. First, we'll ask, what is this theory even trying to do? Then we'll look at its fundamental building blocks, we'll meet these strange new particles that supposedly run the whole show, and see how it makes the huge leap from physics to consciousness and DNA. And finally, we'll ask the biggest question of all. What's the point? Right, first things first. Let's just take a moment and appreciate the incredible scale of what this paper is proposing. Seriously, it isn't just trying to explain one little corner of the universe, it's aiming for a grand, unified picture of reality itself. I mean, look at this. The framework laid out in the source material is just breathtakingly broad. It tries to draw a straight line from the smallest things we know, like neutrinos, all the way to the geology of our planet, like earthquakes. And to do that, it introduces these new theoretical particles to manage the whole system, and even proposes a specific particle for consciousness itself, called the Psychon. The goal here is one single model for physics, biology, and geoscience. So how does a model this big actually build reality? You know, like any theory of everything, it needs a starting point, a first principle. This hypothesis lays out a fundamental four-step sequence for how matter itself supposedly comes into being. According to the paper, this is the cosmic blueprint. It all kicks off with a particle we know, the neutrino. But then it takes a fascinating turn. It suggests the neutrino gets entangled with another particle, the axion. Their interaction supposedly creates a void, and then out of that void, 2D matter is born. This four-step process is the absolute bedrock for everything else in this entire model. And the crucial thing to understand here is that in this model, the neutrino isn't just one type of particle. It's seen as this super versatile origin point, the very foundation of life that can show up in three distinct forms: cosmic, geo, and bio, all depending on its context. Okay, this is where that 2D matter gets really interesting. It's not just one thing, it's broken down into three types. You've got a cosmic layer, a geo layer that's linked to graphene, and then a bio layer, which is a mix of the first two. And this final layer, this is supposedly the basis for life, and it's shaped by something called cymatics, which is basically the study of how sound and vibration can create physical patterns. All right, so we've got this whole system of matter being created, but how is it all controlled? This is where the paper introduces two totally new theoretical particles, the Janus and Philfo particles. Think of them as the managers of this entire system. The easiest way to think about them is like this. The Janus particle, that's the gatekeeper. Its whole job is to lock and unlock the flow of energy. The Philfo particle, on the other hand, is the manager. It's the one actively directing the streams of light, sound, vibration, and even particle density that flow right through that Janus gate. Which, of course, leads us to the next logical question. What exactly are these streams that Janus and Philfo are supposed to be controlling? Because that term gets used pretty broadly in the source material. And yeah, these streams are not just energy in the way we usually think about it. The paper defines them as basically everything, from light and sound to physical properties like particle density. It even includes abstract mathematical principles from thinkers like Euler and Mandelbrot. So in this model, a stream is essentially any form of information flowing through the universe. And here we go. This is where the hypothesis makes its absolute biggest leap. It tries to build a bridge across that enormous, mysterious gap between the physical world of particles and the intangible world of consciousness. So what is this proposed bridge between matter and mind? It's another new particle, the Psychon. It's defined as the smallest possible unit of consciousness. And, to tie it all together, the hypothesis links the Psychon directly back to the axion. Remember that? The second particle in that foundational sequence we saw at the very beginning. Now, building on that mind-bending idea of a particle for consciousness, the hypothesis then turns its focus inward to the very code of life itself, proposing this radical redefinition of our DNA in 5 dimensions. This is definitely not the double helix from your high school biology class. This model imagines DNA as something far more complex. It's a bilayer of that cosmic and geomatter we talked about. It has different solutions inside it, and it's infused with what the paper calls essential oil streams. And here's the kicker. It claims this entire structure is controlled by that very same Janus gate lock and unlock mechanism that manages energy flow across the cosmos. So, after all that, why does any of this matter? What's the practical point of such a massively abstract model? Well, the paper suggests that if this framework is actually correct, it doesn't just explain reality, it offers tangible solutions to some of the world's biggest problems.
Yeah, this isn't just a theoretical exercise for the sake of it. The framework is presented with these really clear, potentially world-changing applications in mind, from creating new sources of clean energy to maybe even mitigating the effects of natural disasters.
And the paper gets surprisingly specific here. It offers its own unique technological solutions based on these principles. To deal with earthquakes, it proposes something called Gumba domes. To solve our energy crisis, it points to neutrino voltaic technologies. It even reimagines the Earth's core as a natural ferrofluid, tying these huge global problems to solutions that really can only exist within this framework. It even reframes our place in the cosmos. The paper suggests that Earth isn't just passively floating through space, it actually behaves like a star, emitting its own neutrinos as it rockets around the Milky Way galaxy at this incredible speed, 828,000 kilometers per hour.
Ultimately, what this explainer has shown us is a single, incredibly ambitious attempt to answer that very question. It's a hypothesis that tries to weave physics, biology, and consciousness into one single narrative. It's a fascinating thought exercise for sure, and it leaves us to ponder the very nature of unified theories and what it really means to try and explain, well, everything.